evening and welcome back to Chi-Town Weekly, everybody. Sorry for the little bit of a layoff there. Yes, I needed to take a couple of weeks off. But never fear. I was thinking about the show, I was thinking about you guys, and we are back and we are raring to go. So much to talk about, so much to break down in the wide world of sports, and I am so glad to get to do that with you guys here. Where to start? There's just so much to go through. We are going to be breaking down tonight March Madness, the Illinois men's basketball team and the Loyola Chicago basketball team. They made things interesting in March, and the tournament as a whole has lived up to the wonderful moniker of March Madness. I don't think it could have been any better than anything we've seen thus far as craziness is concerned. And then the Bears went and found themselves a new quarterback. No, it's not Russell Wilson. We'll discuss that and other fun news around the NFL. A 17-game regular season. Oh boy, I'm so looking forward to that. And then opening day is right around the corner. Let's talk about Cubs and White Sox as we get ready for the start of a hopefully regular MLB season. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IG Sports Radio. Buckle up, let's have some fun. And once again, welcome on into Chi-Town Weekly. My name is Adam Karnick. I am your host. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday evening this week. A little bit of a different time tonight if you're listening live, or if you're listening as a podcast. Whenever you're listening, just thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sorry for the couple of weeks off there. Suffice to say, I came down with a case of the plague, and it made it quite difficult to, the first week especially, it would have been flat out impossible for me to do the show. And then last week I thought I would be able to sneak in and get the show in, but it just proved to be too much to try and sneak it in. I was feeling better, but at the same time, just to sit here and do an hour-long show of talking, no one would have enjoyed it. You would have been hearing me stop and hack and cough and wheeze for minutes on end. So we decided to push back one more week, but better now. So still working our way through everything. Unfortunately, my wife is a little bit sick yet, and so I've been doing the solo parent thing, which is why the late start tonight. But we're making our way through it, and we are making it work. All right, well let's get to, before we dive into the show this evening, let's get through some of our regular housekeeping things. If you do happen to be listening live on the Spreaker app, please feel free, log on in and make a username for yourself. It is free, and you can hop on into the chat and interact with the show that way. Taryn Rodriguez, as usual, is in the chat. Hello, Taryn. Taryn's actually doing a call over on USRN for the Oregon State-Houston game, but he's taking a timeout real quick just to check in. So, hello, Taryn. I hope you're having fun with the call of that game. I hadn't looked at the score of the game too recently, but Taryn lets me know Oregon State is back in, and I look now. Yeah, it's a 3-point game with under 5 minutes to play. It's 55-52 Houston. So that is back to being a game again. And of course, if you and then ways to interact with the show and the station. Of course, you can interact with IE Sports on Twitter at IE Sports. You can also interact with this show on Twitter at IESRC. Or if you want to follow along with my personal account on Twitter, you can do that at Adam_Karnick. And of course, we cannot forget our sponsor, Legacy Financial. Last year was a tough year. However, staying positive, keeping your faith, and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're in a financial struggle at the moment and you need some help, or if you're doing well and you want to get to the next level, well, either way, give them a call. Also, if you're looking for a new opportunity to work for yourself and earn more money part-time, give them a call. You can call AO at 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Andrew and AO are just two people on a mission to help families build a legacy. That's Legacy Financial. You can follow them on Twitter at legacy_uncut or on Instagram at sims_uncut. And then ways to follow along with IE Sports. We are on all the social platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at IE Sports Radio, on Instagram at IE Sports Radio. If you're on Facebook, just search IE Sports Radio or go to our website, iesportsradio.com. Oh man, just so much to get into. You know, when you've been off for 2 weeks, excuse me, I've still got a little bit of a cough. So if you hear me stop and hack for a minute, I do apologize. I'm going to try to mute the mic as best I can before it, but sometimes they sneak up on you. But yeah, when you miss 3 weeks, all kinds of just crazy fun stuff happens, and I figured no place better to start than with the tournament. As we talked beforehand, Illinois, I was disappointed to see Illinois go out as early as it did. You know, when you're a 1 seed, there's all kinds of expectations that are heaped upon you, and you expect well of yourself to go out and do well. It was disappointing to see the Fighting Illini go out in just the second round. At the same time, Loyola was a good matchup. Illinois, the committee did not do anybody any favors by putting Illinois and Loyola as close together in the seedings as they did, having Illinois be a 1 and Loyola be an 8 in the same region by just going chalk. You're setting up there for a second round matchup. I felt that the committee really did not do those two programs, those two teams, any favors by doing that. Illinois, going into that game, you definitely got the feeling that the Fighting Illini just felt that kind of showing up, walking into the gym, that they were going to get the win, that, hey, we're the 1 seed in the Midwest, we're big bad Illinois, we're back, we're going to win this game. Just, all we have to do is kind of show up, and that's all we'll need to do. And certainly against an opponent like Loyola, a seasoned, experienced, senior-laden program like the Ramblers, they weren't going to just roll over and let Illinois beat them. And Illinois was just not prepared for a dogfight. And some of that's inexperience, not being in the tournament for a few years, and now suddenly you're not only in the tournament, but you're a 1 seed. That comes with certain expectations, and they weren't mature enough, either the kids themselves or even Coach Underwood. The feeling I got from watching that was that they just weren't prepared or mature enough for what they got. And having especially a program like Loyola that's been to the dance before and made a deep run before, they were definitely prepared for a fight. Loyola, Matt Garner and I had talked in the last week leading up to the tournament. Loyola he had predicted that Loyola would be an 8 seed, and sure enough, that's where the committee put them. But we had talked that Loyola really, you could have made a case for Loyola to be a much higher seed than they were. And they were ranked inside the AP top 20. They were a 17 or 18 overall in the top 20. You could easily have made a case that Loyola could have been as high then as a 5 seed, and you realistically shouldn't have had too much arguing or complaining from that, yet the committee put him as an 8. I think putting him as a 6 or a 7 would have not only been more fair to Loyola as a program and as a seed, but also then would have helped with Illinois and Loyola as well, as that would have put that matchup further along. That should have been, at the very least, a Sweet 16 matchup, if not an Elite 8 matchup going on tonight. But then Loyola turned around and in the Sweet 16 against Oregon State just had a miserable day shooting, the worst day shooting you could have had, just 25% from the floor. Just nobody was hitting shots. Their defense was keeping them in it, and that was one thing with the Ramblers, and part of the reason I felt that they had the makings for a deep tournament run was their defense was so good it was going to keep them in games, no matter what. Just being able to guard against anybody, be it Illinois or Oregon State or any team that they went up against, they were going to be able to keep them in the gym, keep the game close. But unfortunately for the Ramblers, just they couldn't make shots that particular afternoon, and it cost them. And now you're seeing, Oregon State make a bit of a run of it now, and I look, it's up to a 4-point game now as Taryn checks back in. Taryn also. Not only is he broadcasting the Houston-Oregon State game right now, he also found a couple hours to do his Set Point show this afternoon. And Taryn, of course, you're very welcome that I tuned into a little bit of that. I will be the first to admit that I don't know a whole heck of a lot about organized volleyball, but all honesty and all truthfulness here, Taryn does a fantastic job with that show. If you have any questions at all about volleyball, go to Taryn. Check out his show. It's usually on Mondays, sometimes immediately after our show, sometimes a little before, sometimes he's on Tuesdays. Kind of depends on his schedule, but always check out Set Point. Taryn does an outstanding job with that. You learn a lot from it. So Taryn, you're absolutely welcome. I'm glad you're doing the show. So, but back to the basketball for a second. This tournament has been fun. To keep up one thing, being sick and laid up for a couple of weekends there, I got to watch a lot more of the tournament than I have in years past, and just a lot more basketball than I have in times past. And it's been a fun tournament. Just all the upsets and all the, Oral Roberts. I could honestly say before this tournament, I don't think I'd ever heard of Oral Roberts University. And here they made it into the Sweet 16 as a 15 seed, and seeing Oregon State as a 12 seed going toe-to-toe right now with Houston, and seeing just all the craziness and zaniness. I love it. Now, here in the second weekend, we've had a little bit more back to normal, back to form, if you will. You're starting to see the 1 seeds take over. Gonzaga and Michigan, especially in the Sweet 16, looked every bit the part of the top 2 seeds remaining in this tournament. And you're starting to see some of the guys that you're used to kind of assert their dominance a little bit, and we're starting to see things correct themselves. One of these years, I'd love to see a Final Four of just like 3 double-digit seeds and a school you've never heard of before, just to shake things up. But there's a reason the big boys are the big boys, and they're starting to kind of assert themselves a little bit there in that capacity. And But still, it's been an outstanding tournament, a lot of fun, and we've got more of it tonight. Right as this show is going off, click on over to USRN. If you don't have a way to hear Baylor and Arkansas, USRN will have the call of that game as we wrap up here tonight, and that promises to be good. And of course, we'll have the rest of the Elite Eight tomorrow night as well. So all kinds of fun there. In the NBA, the Bulls made some noise this past week as well. I was very surprised to see the Bulls choose to be buyers at the trade deadline, seeing Eversley and Karnisovas decide to build around Zach LaVine in particular and go out and make a big move in getting Nikola Vucevic. Obviously, it's a position the Bulls needed. They needed a true center, and Vucevic is going to be that for them and give them a much-needed post presence and somebody that not only can be a secondary scorer for LaVine and give them some defensive presence down low when they're going up against some other big men. I was just surprised to see them decide to go in this direction, not only just to buy, but so quickly into this process to decide that, this is the direction to go, and the time is now. The East is such a wild and crazy and back and forth division and conference and the Bulls came out of the All-Star break so slumping and just having a hard time getting into a groove that to see them not only make the move to go for it this year, but to go for it after losing several games. It's gonna be fascinating to watch. It's always fun to watch when a team goes for it, even if it's not necessarily the move that necessarily I would have made if I were the general manager, if I were in the big chair, in the captain's chair, if you will. But it's always more fun to watch a team go for it than it is to watch a team sit back and sell off assets and just tank or be willing to lose. So that is going to make the Bulls fun to watch here over these final few weeks. They've got a game tonight. When we get off the air, they've got a game against the Warriors. Hopefully they can get back on track and get that first win with Vucevic and company, with the new guys in play there for the Bulls. LaVine, of course, is going to play tonight. I believe that I'm looking right now. Yes, it looks like the only guy I'm seeing right now on the injury report is Kobe White. So everybody else should be in play for the Bulls. Satoransky, it looks like he should be playing tonight. And then that would also mean that Lauri Markkanen should be going tonight for the Bulls, because I'm not seeing him listed on the injury report. So hopefully for the Bulls, then they can kind of right the ship and get things going. You can kind of justify going for it a little bit tonight too. That would be big for the Bulls to just justify the moves that they made there at the trade deadline to decide to go for it. As we look at it right now, the Bulls would be the 10 seed, so kind of sort of in the playoffs. They'd be in one of the play-in games to try and sneak into the postseason, but they're, once again, they're not that far out of it. They're only 3 games out of being in the 6th seed and 4 games out from being in the 4 spot. So the East is still all kinds of a mess, all kinds of crazy. So they're not that far away. You get a couple wins in a row and help your cause, and hopefully some good things will be happening for the Bulls. It does look like, too, that the United Center, they haven't announced anything yet, but I saw several of the Blackhawks reporters over the weekend tweeting out pictures of signage at United Center saying, "Welcome back." So it's looking like United Center is starting to make preparations to possibly have fans coming back in the building for Bulls games and for Blackhawks games here in the near future. Again, nothing has been reported yet, nothing has been announced yet, but that's encouraging to see that they are starting to make some preparations. They've started to block off some seats. They've started to create some pods and things there. And then, they're starting to get some signage up. So you might be able to go see the Bulls and or the Blackhawks here in the near future. And that is exciting. All right, we are going to take a quick timeout. And then when we come back, we have to talk about the Bears, some things that have happened up at Hallis Hall, and then also just some NFL news in general. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Back in a minute.
Wrestling fans in the podcast world, you are in the right place to listen to the right show, the premier show in the professional wrestling podcasting world. This is Ring Rambling Radio, and you are listening to one of the co-hosts. I am Martin Sandoval, a.k.a. the SoCal Saint, along with my two co-hosts, the lovely Felicia and my boy Matt. Yes, every Saturday or every other Saturday morning, you can listen to us, the premier wrestling team, giving you the premier wrestling news, rumors, updates, event discussions, everything that has to do with professional wrestling. You're in the right place. IE Sports Radio presents Ring Rambling Radio. Don't miss it, because it's just too sweet.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Want to also mention a shout out to Andrew Hagenbaugh in the chat. What's going on with you, Andrew? I am just glad to be back hosting. My name is Adam Karnick, and I am just so glad to be back hosting. That was not fun the last couple of weeks. I was off sick the last couple of weeks, and I'm just glad to be back here talking sports with you guys and going through things, even though my favorite team, the Chicago Bears, just continue to drive me absolutely bonkers. And my favorite league, the NFL, continues to make me want to shake my head and just get a punching bag. We'll start with the Bears. Of course, the big news a couple weeks ago was that they did get a new quarterback. No, it was not the blockbuster end-all, be-all of all trades for Russell Wilson that we were all hoping that it would be. Instead, it was simply signing Andy Dalton from free agency. I don't want to get too worked up over it because it is almost 2 weeks old at this point, and you do have to kind of just let things go after a while. But suffice to say, I heard another Chicago sports guy that I love listening to, Lawrence Holmes, do an epic rant on this about Ryan Pace. So I don't want to do too much, A, because I'd never be able to top it, and B, it would just sound like I'm simply cribbing off of him and stealing from his riff. But it is funny. Pace made a good faith effort to try to get Russell Wilson. And as soon as the deal was finally ended and Seattle made it obvious that, hey, they were not going to be trading Russell Wilson, immediately it gets leaked to Dan Patrick what the Bears were offering. And the package included 3 first-round picks, and I believe there were a couple other picks in there as well, some later-round picks, and 2 players. The players weren't named. I would surmise one is obviously Khalil Mack, the best individual player on the Bears roster, and my other guess would have been David Montgomery, the top running back, because we know that Seattle, if they'd be moving on from Russell Wilson, it would be because they'd want to put more of an emphasis on running the ball. They wanted to do that last season anyway, and so getting Montgomery would be an upgrade from Chris Carson, theoretically. And to me, I think they're pretty interchangeable backs, but that would have been the guess to me, because at the time the Seahawks hadn't signed Carson, and so Montgomery would fill that hole in there. Obviously, that information, one way or another, got to Dan Patrick from Ryan Pace, the general manager. Pace may not have directly given that information out there, but obviously it was done with his blessing. He's the general manager. Okay, you made a great deal. You made a great offer. And Seattle may be foolish for deciding to hold on to Russell Wilson. At the same time, the way quarterback play goes anymore in the NFL, obviously somebody like Russell Wilson is the kind of guy you want at your quarterback position, because he is a true he is a guy that can put the franchise on your back and get you to the promised land. He's the kind of guy that everybody out there is going for and looking for. And anymore, with the way that you're not allowed to hit the quarterbacks and the way that the quarterbacks are able to play efficiently longer. You look at Tom Brady being 42, Drew Brees through his age 41 season was still a reliable starter in the NFL, though he's finally hanging it up. Aaron Rodgers is still at 38 years old doing so well. Ben Roethlisberger is getting up there. The point is, Russell Wilson at just 32, it's not out of line to expect that you could get easily another 7 or 8 years out of him, maybe even another decade out of him before you'd have to move on. So obviously it's a price well worth paying to get that. And if I'm Seattle, that would have been a tempting offer to get that. One player, 3 first-round picks for one guy. Yeah, that's tempting. That's really tempting. But at the same time, close isn't good enough. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And this isn't either of those things. Eventually, Pace, you've got to get the quarterback situation right. And Pace has shown a marked propensity for constantly missing. And then to turn around and sign Andy Dalton and then try, on the one hand, you're going to leak this information out to the press of, hey, we made an effort to get Russell Wilson, and have these anonymous sources go out there and leak to Dan Patrick and etc. of, yeah, we were trying to get Russell Wilson. But then from the Bears themselves, they put out on their social media account a picture of Andy Dalton and with the caption, QB1, and all these other things to make it sound like, oh yeah, this is the guy we wanted all along. Come on, you're not pulling anybody's leg here. Andy Dalton, no offense against him, nothing against him. He's a guy. He's an older, veteran quarterback that at this point, isn't the future. He's a stopgap until you can get the next young kid in there. This is Mike Glennon 2.0. I'm not saying that Andy Dalton is going to be as bad as Glennon was for those 4 starts that he made. I'm not saying that he'll be better. I'm just saying that this is not the future. And it's brutally obvious that this isn't the future. You sign him for a 1-year deal. Of course you're not expecting great things out of Andy Dalton. If you thought he was something, you'd have locked him up for multiple years. The writing's on the wall there. Don't try to pull the wool over our eyes and don't take us for fools as fans of the team here, as fans of the product. We all know what you're doing here. This is a stopgap measure, and that's fine. If that's what you were able to do, then do it. Then own it. Then just say, yes, this is a stopgap. We needed to get a quarterback. Unfortunately, we don't think Nick Foles is the answer. They're trying to move on from Nick Foles. They're trying to trade him for whatever they can get. At this point, I think they're getting, probably they'd be lucky to get a 6th-round pick for him at this point. But sure, do it. They've got 1 million 6th-round picks as it is. Half the Bears draft this year is in the 6th round. 4 of their 8 picks are in the 6th round. But sure, let's get another one. Why not? Get something for Nick Foles. You know that he's not the answer. But that means that obviously they're going to be trying to get a quarterback early in this draft. And I saw somebody throw it out there earlier this past week in one of the Bears fan groups I'm in that said, hey, it basically was, hey, if Mac Jones is there at 20, do you think the Bears go for him? And it was, I don't care who the quarterback is. If there's a quarterback with a 1st-round grade that somehow makes it to the Bears at 20, hell yes, you take him. Because the way this draft is shaping up right now, very possibly the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks, and we might see 4 or 5 of the first 10 picks be quarterbacks. By the time the 20th pick comes around, you're probably going to be looking at the 6th, 7th, 8th best quarterback on the board available in all likelihood. So somehow, if somebody with a 1st-round grade, be it Mac Jones or Justin Fields or somebody, falls all the way to 20, absolutely, yes. Ryan Pace, jump on it. I don't think they're going to be there. I think you're realistically looking at probably a 2nd or 3rd round pick being used on a quarterback and grooming that guy with Andy Dalton being the stopgap in the meantime. And again, if that's the plan, fine. Own it. Be straightforward. Be honest about it, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. Don't play the fans and the media for fools and try to say, oh, no. This was the plan all along. No, it wasn't. This is plan C or D at this point. And it's probably going to result in Pace and certainly Pace, possibly Nagy, losing their jobs at the end of this season. Fine. Own it. Be straightforward with it. Don't try to pull the wool over our eyes with this. And I see Taryn's back from his live call, and Davidson Crooks just hopped into the chat. Hey, fellas, glad you guys are here. And Houston earned its first trip into the Final Four in 37 years with a 67-61 win over Oregon State. So Houston will represent the Midwest region in this year's Final Four. Congratulations to Houston, the 2 seed out of the Midwest. Excuse me there, I got a real bad cough. I'm still recovering, for those of you late tuning in, I'm still recovering from the plague. That's why I was out the last couple weeks. So occasionally I have to mute the mic so that I can cough. Taryn wants to know, do I think Loyola would have beaten Houston? Yes, I do. I do. I talked a little bit about this last segment. What did Loyola in the Sweet 16 was their shooting. Their defense was strong enough that their defense would have gotten them through, would have kept them in a game with anybody. And I think even with Houston, they would have been able to tangle with Houston. It would have been close. It would have been interesting. But yes, I think Loyola very possibly could have beaten Houston. That would have been a very exciting and entertaining game to watch. Unfortunately, what happened with Loyola, they went ice cold from the floor against Oregon State. You're not going to beat very many teams at all when you're only shooting 25, 30% from the floor for the game. You know, when you've only got one player with multiple field goals in the first in a half, that makes it hard. You know, when I think it was Krutwig was the only player that had multiple baskets from the floor in the first half against Oregon State, that's problematic. You know, that's going to be tough for anybody. But yes, their defense would have kept them in that game against Houston. It would have been a very entertaining game. Fortunately, it sounds like and it looks like you got a very entertaining game there between Oregon State and Houston. So Oregon State made a push late to make things close. In the end, Houston gets to go back to the Final Four after a long absence, and that's cool. That's really cool for Houston and its fans. Hopefully they're able to give us a good show there in the Final Four. All right, so one last NFL thought real quick, and then we're going to take another break here. I don't think it's been formally announced yet, but it's been one of the worst kept secrets of the last year plus that the NFL owners are going to institute a 17th regular season game this season. They are taking one of the preseason games and converting it into a regular season matchup. So we'll now have just 3 preseason games and 17 regular season games. I talked about this last year when the new collective bargaining agreement got ratified. I think this is a stupid idea. I hate this idea. I completely understand it from the NFL's perspective. It makes sense. It's a cash grab. It's a pure money grab. Hey, we can take one of these preseason games, turn it into a regular season game. We make way more money having it be regular season because you know that the stadiums are all going to be full because it's a regular season game, and you know that there's going to be eyeballs glued to the television sets because it's a regular season game. It doesn't mean I have to like it. One of the great things that came about when they expanded the playoffs last year was you brought value and meaning to the final week of the regular season, especially in the AFC this past year. My gosh, you had so many teams still in it and with something to fight for going into that final regular season game. Whereas in years past, you got to the last week and it was, you'd have maybe 2 or 3 games that had any meaning and everything else was all wrapped up. And now you're going to have that same problem again. We're going to get to this week 18, as it will be, and you're going to have of the 14 playoff spots, 12 of them will already be decided, and you'll have just a couple left to fight over and squabble over, but everybody's got to play because there's the 17th game, and it's going to be boring, it's going to be bad, there's going to be a bazillion players out there that you've never heard of, and you probably won't ever hear of again, because either guys are hurt or veterans are, well, I don't need to play this game, we're not going anywhere, I'm going to stay safe, I'm going to stay healthy, I'm just not going to play this week. I don't like it. The players don't like it either. At the same time, the players have got to own some of this too. In the collective bargaining agreement this last year, there were 2 big things that you know the players wanted to address and wanted to take care of. One was the franchise tag, and the other was this 17th game. And I understand from the players' perspective why they don't want a 17th game. It's yet another week of wear and tear on their bodies. When we're supposedly talking about player safety and keeping players safe, and we take safety seriously here in the NFL. Yeah, bull. You just created a needless regular season game purely to make money. against the players' wishes. So I understand why the players don't like it. At the same time, you had the opportunity to stop this at the collective bargaining table last year, and you didn't because you were scared to death of... And Davidson just made my point for me exactly right there. Thank you, Davidson. Davidson says the players are too scared to stand up for themselves. That's exactly what it is. The players were scared last year. They were scared that they didn't know what was going to happen because it was a pandemic. Yeah, it's scary. At the same time, they knew that this labor agreement was coming up. They knew what was going on. Their leadership had even been saying, hey guys, hold on to cash, hold on to money. Be prepared to be willing to go to battle. We think that we can maybe take care of some things. And the players got scared, and they were just so quick and willing to race up and just sign whatever the owners gave them of a collective bargaining agreement so that they'd make sure that they'd have a collective bargaining agreement and they'd have paychecks. You know, another reason that the players are against the 17th week, the way the players get paid is whatever their salary for the season. For purposes of this example, let's say it's $16 million. That $16 million that player gets paid out over 16 game checks. So if it was a base salary of $16 million, then he would get $16 million checks during the course of the season for each week they had a game. Now it's simply going to be $16 million over 17 weeks. So basically they're going to play this 17th game for free. They're not getting any extra money for this 17th game. Now, there's going to be some back and forth between the union and the league about this, I'm sure. But that's another reason that the players are against this, is because the players aren't actually weren't originally being compensated anything extra. That it was just, oh yeah, we're just going to take your salary and just spread it out over 17 now instead of 16. You know, imagine if at your work, your boss came to you and said, hey, I need you to start working 50 hours a week, but I'm still only going to pay you for 40. No, I'm not happy about that. It's the same thing here with the players. But again, they signed on the dotted. I don't understand why. They needed to stand up for themselves, and they needed to take care of this a year ago when it came up on the collective bargaining agreement. Everybody knew this was coming, that the owners wanted to do this. So I get why the players are upset now, but at this point, you're stuck with it. You now have the 9 more years of this labor agreement to sit on this and stew on this and decide when the next time comes up, are you actually going to do anything about it? Or are you going to fix it? There's a whole bunch of other reasons why I don't like the 17th game. I'll go through it quickly. It's an unbalanced schedule. You've got half the league is going to play 9 games at home. The other half is going to play 9 games on the road. Now, they've decided to make it by conference, which kind of makes sense, I guess, so that for tie-breaking purposes inside a conference, every team in the AFC this upcoming season will have played 9 home games, and every NFC team will have played 9 road games. That'll make it cleaner for trying to look at tiebreakers and strength of schedule. But playing at home is worth at least a field goal. And for some of your better teams, it's worth as much as a touchdown. So that's a huge advantage that every team now in the AFC gets this season. Another reason I don't like it, your non-conference games are your most meaningless games in the season, in the schedule. The AFC versus NFC games are some of the most meaningless. They just don't have any weight to them. They're the, okay, if you have to lose a game, that's the game you want to lose, is a non-conference game. So you're giving us, yes, you're NFL, you're giving us more games. You're giving more of the useless games, the games that nobody cares about. The one kind of nice thing here for the Bears, at least, is their opponent is going to be the Raiders. which means that the Bears otherwise weren't going to play out in Vegas. They were going to be one of the last teams to actually play a regular season game out in Vegas. It was going to wind up being 2027 before the Bears would have played a regular season game out in Vegas. Now they'll play one now in 2021. It'll be the Lions instead who will be the last team to play a regular season game in Vegas potentially. But it's just a pure cash grab. It's a money grab by the owners. I don't like it. It's a bad move. So I'm not happy. I'm not surprised at all to see it, but that doesn't mean I like it. All right, we're going to take one more quick break here on Chi-Town Weekly, and then when we come back, let's talk some baseball. We got opening day coming up this week. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
To the Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League, to the World Cup, to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Were you listening to a great game on USRN, but then the Wi-Fi crashed in the final seconds? Or do you simply want to listen to the best calls we here at USRN have to offer? Well then, you need to go check out our Audio Boom page. It holds a collection of our best calls that you don't want to miss. How do I get there, you ask? You can download the Audio Boom app and look up Ultimate Sports Radio, or simply go to audiobook.com/Ultimate Sports Radio. And as always, thanks for listening and making USRN one of the most talked about sports networks on Mixler.com.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Bases Loaded is back in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Going to dive back into the chat room here in just a second, but real quick, do want to give one final shout out to our sponsor, Legacy Financial. Last year was a tough year, and 2021 is still being interesting. However, staying positive, keeping your faith, and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're in a financial struggle at the moment and you need some help, or if you're doing well and you want to get to the next level, either way, give them a call. Also, if you're looking for a new opportunity to work for yourself and earn more money part-time, give them a call. You can call AO at 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Andrew and AO are just two people on a mission to help families build a legacy. Follow Legacy Financial on Twitter at legacy_uncut or on Instagram at Sims_uncut. So I wanted to dive back into the chat room here real quick. Davidson Crooks pointed out that the NFL players were like this, talking about their dislike for a 17-game schedule and the last labor agreement. Yes and no. We heard from a lot of the high-level guys like Alvin Kamara or J.J. Watt, who've already made their money and been paid already, speaking out against it. But they didn't turn into anything. The rank and file players, they didn't have leadership amongst their ranks from a union perspective. Yes, there were guys at the top that weren't happy with the prospect of a 17th game, and nor should they be. And they were lashing out on Twitter and other social media to voice their displeasure. But they couldn't communicate that to their teammates and to their fellow players and say, hey, guys, we need to band together. We need to stick together. We need to figure out a way to make this work. That we can't be the first ones to blink on this issue. So they got to figure something out there from a union leadership standpoint, whether it's a new union head or just the team union reps need to work together to get a more uniform approach and collective approach when it comes to these things. The owners took them to task in the last bargaining agreement period, and that's why you're seeing things like the franchise tag and a 17th game that are there solely for the benefit of the teams still in use, despite the fact that the players hate them. All right. So, a little bit, we're going to get away from football. We're going to real quick talk about some baseball. Yeah, we're going a little long tonight. It's been a few weeks since I've been on. It's okay. We can afford to go a little long tonight. So, opening day is coming up this week, and I didn't want to get out of here without talking about both the Cubs and the White Sox. Going to start with the Cubs, in part because they had some news come out today that was kind of depressing, and I want to end on a positive note, and the White Sox are definitely going to be the ones to give a much more positive end to this than the Cubs. So the Cubs, they start at home. They get to open at home at Wrigley on Thursday, a 1:20 first pitch against the Pirates. And it's going to be Kyle Hendricks going for the Cubs. He gets to make the opening day start, the Professor, the second year in a row that the Professor is going to be the opening day starter. Obviously, some new faces out there. Jock Peterson is going to be the starter in left field, taking over for Kyle Schwarber, who is now with the Nationals. Going to have a new second baseman. It's not going to be Nico Horner. The young prospect is going to open the season down in AAA. Apparently the Cubs did not learn anything from their service time manipulation of Chris Bryant, and they're going to do the exact same thing with Nico Horner. Now, however, I'm not saying it's going to play out the exact same way with Horner as it has with Bryant, but that's where we're at. The Cubs this year, this is going to be a strange year for the Cubs. This is the last hurrah in a lot of ways. It was announced today, Anthony Rizzo came out and said he's entering the final year of his deal. And he came out and said that he and the Cubs are at an impasse in contract negotiations, and he does not want to negotiate during the season. He has told his agent to simply end the negotiations at this point. They'll bring it back up at the end of the season. Reports were, I saw a report earlier during the show on Twitter that at one point the Cubs were offering Rizzo a 4-year, $60 million deal, and then they upped it to a 5-year, $70 million offer. Well short of what Rizzo was looking for, which was north of $100 million for 5 years. I can understand the Cubs aren't wanting to. The Cubs want to pay Rizzo what they think he'll be worth over the next 5 years, and Rizzo is looking to make up for money he didn't get over the last 9 years by signing a very team-friendly deal back before the 2013 season, where he made a total of $73 million over the last 9 years. But this does feel like the beginning of the end. You've got Rizzo, Baez, Bryant, and Contreras all coming to the end of their team control. And it feels very much like this is the last hurrah. That if the first half of this season does not start off well for the Cubs, then look for them to sell off everybody and get whatever they can at the trade deadline. And even if they are successful, I wouldn't expect any of these guys to be back next year. I think at this point, the Cubs have made their intentions somewhat known, that there's a huge difference between what these guys think they're worth and what the team thinks they're worth. And I think at the end of the day, this is the end of the line for the Cubs. It's especially sad with Rizzo because he was kind of the player that signaled that this was the start of something new. That when they acquired him back in 2011, I think it was, when they made the trade to acquire him, it was a sign that this isn't all going to be bad, that this isn't all going to be a teardown, and that they're going to be losing every year, that there is going to be a light at the end of this tunnel. And then when Rizzo first came up, it was a sign that, hey, the future might not be that far away. We might not be this far away from winning. So to see Rizzo eventually be shown the door is sad, because he has been the symbol of what this Cubs regime has been all about. So it is sad to see him go. But I would expect that they're going to blow this thing up after this season, possibly even during the season, and that we'll see where the Cubs go from there. With Kyle Hendricks being the ace of the staff. So that's the Cubs getting their spring started off. The White Sox, on the other hand, they're going to be fun to watch. Now, they had some bad news come out last week. Their star left fielder, Eloy Jimenez, injured himself foolishly trying to catch a home run ball in left field, and he is slated to miss the next 5 to 6 months, which is effectively going to be the entirety of the regular season for the White Sox. That's a blow. It feels, honestly, a little bit to me like when the Cubs lost Kyle Schwarber at the very beginning of the 2016 season. It's not quite the same. It's not the same injury. It's not quite the same timeline, but it's similar in that left fielder who's definitely more known for his bat than his glove gets hurt early, is going to miss potentially the entire regular season. But I think we might see Eloy come back either at the tail end of the regular season or in the postseason and go on a run. In the meantime, the White Sox are going to have an interesting time trying to fill that left field spot. It might be young rookie Andrew Vaughn. It might be Laurie Garcia. We'll see kind of what they do to fill that left field spot. But in the end, the White Sox are just so strong between guys like Jose Abreu, the reigning AL MVP, and Tim Anderson, and Luis Robert in center field, and all the other, Giolito, and with as deep as this team is, the White Sox are going to be fun to watch this season. They're one of the, I've said it before over the past month or two for all of spring training, that the White Sox are one of the few teams actively trying to win this season. I think the Sox are going to be a blast to watch, a ton of fun to keep up with this season. I hope that they are able to make a deep run. They've got arguably the best bullpen in baseball, especially with new closer Liam Hendricks, and guys like Garrett Crochet, a fireballer in the pen. They are going to be fun to watch. They are going to be somebody to keep an eye on. It's going to be all kinds of fun on the South Side this season. All right, that does it for this week. Ran a little long tonight. Please do go over and check out. Actually, they have started already. You heard the promo for them in the last segment. Bases Loaded. H-Town Blake and Brandon Buckingham have already started over on StreamYard. Definitely go check out Bases Loaded. You can check out all the other shows during the week. Guys like Kansas City Shuffle tomorrow, or go back and listen to Taryn's set point from earlier today, or you can catch Taryn on Friday when he does SoCal Supreme. Andrew's going to be doing the State of Ohio Sports on Friday. Larry B is going to be doing the Defining Moment later this week. All kinds of great shows. Davidson Crooks is going to be doing Fast Break. Probably not on Sunday this coming week because of Easter, but he'll be on during the week. Catch all the great shows here on the network. Thank you to Davidson, to Taryn, to Andrew for hopping into the chat. Thank you to Larry for everything you do here on the station, all the hard work that you put in. And thank you to you guys, the listeners, for continuing to support me. I really do appreciate it, and coming back even after a couple of weeks off. next week. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, be good. This is Adam Karnick for Chi-Town Weekly. Next week we will recap the opening weekend for the Cubs and the White Sox at MLB. We will break down the Final Four from March Madness. We'll have all kinds of fun stuff to talk about. I'm sure there'll be Bulls and Blackhawks and Bears and all kinds of other talk along the way. Until next week, we'll see you then.